So you've got your risotto, then you're going to take some pre-shredded cheese, whether it's Parmesan or Gruyere or Formaggio Reggiano. I guess it's Parmesan. Pecorino Romano. You're just going to put some on top. Just enough to allow it to melt nicely. And there you go. That's your finished product. Okay, so this recipe was taken from the New York Times. A couple things. One, they call for 4 ounces of dried mushrooms. Assuming the 10-to-1 rule of fresh to dry weight, this is 40 ounces of fresh mushrooms. This is 2.5 pounds. That's a truly incredible amount of mushrooms, especially if you're using a more expensive variety. 4 ounces could end up costing you like 80 CAD or something. Like that's an obscene amount of money. So I would say only 1 ounce of dried mushrooms. Plus the dish doesn't really need it. You're going to want to use one that tastes strong. I use morels here. They're not as strong tasting as the ones I've listed, but this is the backbone of your dish, and if you don't want to use a lot of mushrooms, you want to use strong tasting, strong smelling mushrooms. And I've listed a couple there to choose from. Those are all good selections. Now, I have listed an alteration here. If you're using a very weak tasting dried mushroom, I don't know why you would buy it, but if you have it, like a button mushroom or something, you know what, go ahead, use 2 to 3 ounces of the dried mushroom. It's a cheap mushroom, it's not going to be costly, especially if you dry it yourself. You just want to have a good mushroom tasting risotto. Now, I'm going to go into the other stuff now. So, you're going to need 2 cups of boiling water. Normally I wouldn't list water, but this is very important. Use it for the mushroom rehydration. This ends up becoming a mushroom stock. You do have to keep this water after you rehydrate the mushrooms. You're also going to use 4 cups of chicken stock. Now, I had an alteration for dried mushrooms. Here's an alteration for fresh mushrooms. What you're going to want to do is, once you get these fresh mushrooms, you're going to want to cut them up into 1/2 centimeter slices or so. You're going to sear it super well in olive oil before you add it to the dish. Same step you would add it to the dish in the standard recipe, which is after cooking the rice for a little bit in butter. While you're cooking the rice in butter, you are going to want to sear these, make sure most of the water's out, and make sure they're golden. You can use, as I said, you can use any mushroom for this, but look up what the dried weight would be, and then use 6 to 10 times that amount. Different mushrooms have different water ratios, and I can't list them for every mushroom. Omit the boiling water, because you're not going to be rehydrating the mushroom, and so instead of 2 cups of the mushroom stock and 4 cups of chicken stock, you just can use 6 cups of chicken stock. It's really as simple as that. Now the rest of the ingredients, super straightforward. You're going to use 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 medium onion, ideally red, you can use what you want, and 2 cloves of garlic. In the video, I use a whole bunch of cloves of garlic, but that's because they're super tiny. They're garden grown, and they're not as big as store-bought. You're going to want to use 1.5 cups of arborio rice. Now, I don't have access to it, unless I put off the video by ordering from Amazon, which I probably should have, but if you can access carnaroli rice, you should use it. I hear it's much better. Not that arborio rice is bad, arborio rice is absolutely steps above any other rice you could be using, with the exception of carnaroli. Just use it if you have access to it, or order on Amazon, dealer's choice. You're also going to want to use 1/3 cup of white wine. This just adds a little bit of zing to the mushrooms. It's good flavor, it takes the fond off the pot. And lastly, to top off your risotto, you're going to want to use a strong tasting shredded cheese. Parmesan, Pecorino Romano, Gruyere, anything with a strong flavor. You can even use sharp cheddar if you feel like it. Dealer's choice. Okay, so about 30 minutes or so before you actually want to make your risotto, you're going to take your dried mushrooms. I've got morels here, or if you're using fresh mushrooms, you don't need to do this. You're going to want to put them, assuming they've been washed before they were dried, into the container, and you're going to want to cover them with about 2 cups worth of water. So, given that this takes up loosely 1 cup of space, I'm going to fill it to about the 2.5 mark here with boiling water. You're going to want to give these about 30 minutes to absorb all the relevant water. I'm going to cover this up with aluminum foil here. And I'll be back in about 30 minutes. Okay, so just to start here, you've got your morels from prior. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to strain these off. So, smells pretty good. Now you're going to want to strain these off. Now, I don't know why I use this as an intermediary. That was silly of me. You're then going to want to pour that off into the stock pot here. Okay. So store your morels off to the side. They should be relatively well hydrated. And now, while you're at it, what you're gonna do is you're gonna prep 4 cups of chicken stock. So it should be about 2 cups of liquid here, and it's not too hot. You're gonna wanna do about 2 cups of chicken stock here. So it's a teaspoon of chicken stock, slightly rounded, per cup of hot water. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put 4 in here. You're gonna pour in your 4 cups of boiling water. A little bit more won't hurt much. Okay. Now you're gonna want to take this, you're gonna want to put it in your stove and keep it hot. There we go. Took a while there. Okay. Just keep it simmering. And then what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to chop up an onion here. Take a brief second. Put your scraps off to the side. You're gonna want to get about 2 tablespoons of butter. So it's gonna look like about that. You can use slightly more, slightly less, doesn't really matter too much. It's not super precise. Add that to your pan and start it going. Okay. For your onions, you're gonna want to slice them relatively thin here. Very important. You want it to cook quick. Okay, there we go. A little bit of texture. Put this into your pan. Now you're gonna want to do 2 cloves of garlic. Okay, add your garlic. Chop up your morels. Chop them up. Put them back. Okay. You're gonna add 1.5 cups of rice. Just gonna want to stir the rice. It's supposed to whiten over time. Okay, so in the meantime, while all that's going on, you're gonna add 1/3 of white wine to your morels or whatever other mushroom you're using. Okay, so at this point the rice has begun to whiten a little bit. What we're gonna do is we're gonna add in the morels and the 1/3 cup of white wine. So from this point going forwards, we're just gonna keep adding ladlefuls of stock, about 1/2 cup at a time. And allowing it to completely absorb between ladlefuls. Okay, so we're almost done. I'm gonna add the rest of the stock here. By the time that's finished, we should be good to go. If it's not moisturized by the time this is done, we're finished. So just let it finish up. Okay, so at this point, all of the liquid should mostly be evaporated, just leaving a thick sauce to keep the rice together. Your rice should be basically the rice equivalent of al dente. You can taste it and check. I already did. So you're gonna take your finished risotto, So this is enough for about 3 people that I prepared today. So you've got your risotto, then you're going to take some pre-shredded cheese, whether it's Parmesan or Gruyere or Formaggio Reggiano. I guess it's Parmesan. Pecorino Romano. You're just going to put some on top. Just enough to allow it to melt nicely. And there you go. That's your finished product.